What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make your own fuel lines. It's going to be center feed fuel lines, so I'm going to be showing you guys how to do it. And this is the current state of the car. It's on all four jacks, and I'm currently doing some changes, upgrading some stuff. Outer tie rods are bad, inner tie rods are bad too. Just changing some stuff and here and there to get it running good. But let's get started here. All right, so I'm going to be teaching you guys how to make your own fuel lines. It's very easy. I'm going to be making the center feed style and showing you how to route it and to where with your fuel pressure regulator and your inlet micron filter. So in front of me right here, I have dash 6. This is about, I want to say 10 feet or so of dash 6 AN braided line, and then various fitting angles. I'm going to be letting you know which ones to use: straight, 90 degrees, 45, etc. But I want to give a shout out to Max Speeding Rods for sending this out to me. Thank you guys, I appreciate it. And then I'm also going to be showing you where you can find it on Max Speeding Rods, and where you can find this for you guys. They have different style, colors, and length as well for you guys for your projects. You can also use this for oil as well. So let's get to it. All right, tools that you're going to need for the job. You can either use adjustable wrench. In here I have 219s. If you want to be fancy and you don't want to scratch up your fittings, you can have the anodized adjustable wrench as well. This is specifically made for AN fittings. It works really well. I do not own one. This is letting you know with common tools that you have laying around, you can get the job done. I got a measuring tape as well. It's rated up to 12 feet. And then I have myself hose cutter right there. So these, you can get them anywhere, Lowe's, Home Depot. I even seen them at Walmart as well. Then obviously wrenches, something commonly that everybody has, and a tape measure as well. And then just with these little simple things, you can get the job done as well. If you have a vice grip, it's nice to have them. A lot of times you need like the little jaw clamps, in order to get the job done without scratching. All right, so the first thing you're gonna do, you're gonna take your AN braided hose and you're going to measure. You're going to measure, as you can see I have it laid over there, but you're going to measure from where you're going to put it, run it to. So in this case I'm doing a center feed. So if you're doing, like, let's say from one of the sides of the fuel rail, you choose what line. Rule of thumb: measure twice, cut once, and always leave a little bit of slack. Never have it straight, and not like no slack, because then when it stretches or something, then you'll run into issues at that point. All right, so I'm going to show you guys how to do it. So in this case, it's going to be a center feed, like I was saying. I'm not going to be the dead horse again. So I already have mine set up, but I'm going to show you guys how to do it. So I have my fuel pressure regulator mounted on the side, on the shock tower. So essentially what I did was I got a K-tune center feed, but it also allows me to run the gauge. But you don't have to get none of this stuff fancy. You can just get a center feed, or you can just run it from here on that side all the way to the fuel pressure regulator. I just decided to tuck it and have it in the center. So what you're going to do is you're going to mock it from here, and then it's going to run, so you can see, all the way here. So we're going to measure and then leave some slack, just to make sure you're going to leave some slack, and then we're going to cut. And then I'm going to go ahead and measure it with my tape, and then give you guys a measuring, so that way when you guys are doing yours, it's up to you. It's custom. So if either you want more slack or you want less, just remember, always leave slack. So I'm going to go ahead and measure from the center of the fuel rail to this side of the fuel pressure regulator, and then I'm going to go ahead and give you those measurements. All right, so I went ahead and measured it. I'm going to go ahead and cut, measure it, give you the measuring that I got. And then you can go off of that, or you can just have a roughly idea of what to do. Preferably you want to put tape where you're going to cut. It'll help it with the fray when you cut it. I don't have Scotch tape, so what I did was I'm just going to cut and then go from there pretty much. Alright, so you're pretty much going to just get the clamps, clamp it in there, and then you're just going to and there you go. just like that. Straight cut, flat. You don't want it to be angled or canted. You know, you could get leaks. So it, you know, didn't really fray that much. It wasn't that bad. But there you go. That's how you cut it. And if you had the tape, it'll just, you know, protect it a little bit from fraying. So it like, it wasn't that bad. But yep, that's the first step. It's very safe you're gonna do with the cutters. So we went ahead and measured our first piece. It came up to 3 feet and 4 inches. So that's our first measurement. All right, so for the second measurements and second cut, we already did the fuel rail to a fuel pressure regulator. It's going to be the return of the fuel pressure regulator to the hard line. And then with this, it came with a -4 for the return. I just went ahead and upgraded it to a -6. And what you're gonna need is obviously your fitting, and we're gonna go ahead and measure and then cut. Also, this will determine on your setup what you're going to do. I decided to you know, how I decided to cut my lines, you know, the distance and stuff like that, how I wanted it. That's up to you. If you want to have them longer, shorter, that's completely up to you. So I went ahead and when I was cutting my hard lines, I went ahead and measured it like how I wanted it, given that all of them are pretty much like my breather, return, and feed are all the same length, precisely all the same length when I cut it. I had to use a torch because it has like a little rubber insulator, kind of like a little plastic insulator, and it's really hard to cut it if it's not kind of like heated. So I heated it up, turned into kind of like rubberized jelly, and it was easy just to, you know, get a blade or a knife or something and just kind of like swipe it off. So I was that way I was able to actually cut the line a lot better. So yeah, so let's go ahead and mock this one up and do it. All right, here is the return. Let me go ahead and measure it for you guys and give you the measurements. All right, so for the return, you're looking at 1 3/4 feet. Let's say give or take 3/4 or so. All right, so the next one we're going to do is going to be the feed. So for the feed, it could get tricky because I have a smaller size or shorter size hose connected to another fitting, and then connected to the micron filter, and then running a shorter line with a fitting all the way to the back. So and here it's I'm gonna give you my measurement, but it's gonna dictate in your setup how you run it. You know, there's various sizes of inlet fuel micron filters. So you got bigger, smaller ones. I am running a K Motorsports 100 microns as a -6. Later on I'll be upgrading to a K2 one. This one has given me no issues whatsoever, but obviously they do have different sizes and they range, so it's going to require you to probably customize it according to yours. But given what the measurements that I'm going to give you and, you know, the cuts, you can pretty much just, you know, I can make fit any decent size, you know, micron filter in there. All I have to do is kind of like spread it out, and I'll still have room. I left a little bit of slack on my AN hoses just in case if I had to do that in the future. So let's go ahead and mock this one up and get the measurements. All right, so I went ahead and cut the last 2 remaining parts. This part is going to go from the top. I'm going to show you. Is going to go from this portion down here, up here, all the way down. The small portion of the AN hose is going to, the lighting's a little bit off, but it's going to go, see if I can get it right there, from the inlet filter all the way to the hard line. So it's not going to be, it's a really tiny hose piece that you're going to have to cut. Like I said, it's going to dictate on your measurements and how you're setting it up. And then also, what inlet filter you're going to run, or, you know, what route are you taking with. So let's go ahead and measure it. So I go with this one, and you're looking at looks like 7 inches on the dot. And then for the smaller one that connects from the inlet filter to the hard line, we're looking at roughly 5 1/8 inches. All right, so let's go ahead and show you how to put the AN fittings. All right, so this is going to be pretty much the amount of hoses you're going to be cutting if you're doing it a center feed, the same style that I'm doing. It's just going to pretty much be 4 hoses that you're going to cut. I already went ahead and gave you the measurements as well. Given is going to dictate how you want to run it. Remember to always leave slack and give, that way it's this not just straight. Alright, so let's go ahead and start mounting the fittings and which fittings you're going to need for what side. Alright, so for the first AN fitting that I'm going to be using is going to be the one that's going from the center feed from the fuel rail. It's your choice if you want to run it here or in here. If you're running from here, I'll either go with a 45 or a straight. I went ahead when I did my center feed and I went ahead and went with a straight. If you're asking yourself what is a straight, this is a straight AN fitting. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and mount that one, install it on one side of the hose, and then running all the way to my fuel pressure regulator, I have another straight going to it. So you can see there's no kinks to it. It's a free, smooth turn. So obviously I'm not obstructing the pressure of the fuel, and the same goes to the middle. So let's go ahead and knock that one out. All right, so you're gonna repeat the same process to the other side. You're gonna take this. You're gonna take one of the sides of the hose. That's why we it's recommended to put tape. Just make sure you don't fray it. It's not that bad. I've seen really bad frays. So you're gonna take the back side of it, coupling, and you're gonna insert it. Sorry, you're gonna insert it. Insert it. I like to do a twisting motion. So get that in there. Twisting motion as I go in. There you go. It's twisting motion. So in here, all you're doing is just pretty much you're seating it in flush with the hose itself, and it's gonna be really hard to see on camera, but this is where you go ahead and just inspect it, and by looking at it, it looks properly sealed. It is resting right on the actual end of the hole cap. So let's go ahead and twisting motion and pushing in, and then this is where the vise, like I was telling you guys, will work in perfectly. You clamp this in the vise, and you go ahead and insert this, and you twist it, and you essentially not using your hands, but it works like this as well. All right, so went ahead, it's seated and it's properly in there. You're going to take the male end of the AN fitting. You can go ahead and put a little bit of oil in here, some like thread oil, and insert it. That way it's a lot easier to go in. I do not have any, so it's not going to be a problem. So let's go ahead and insert it, and then start putting it in. At this point, you're going to feel slight resistance, and it will not let you any further do it by hand. I'm doing as much as I can. And then this is where I'm going to take my my wrench. I'm going to hold one side of the fitting, and then I'm going to put the other side here, and then just start turning clockwise. So at this point, you will feel resistance. It's just seating inside the hose. You will check the gap, and you're going to keep going. You'll feel more resistance. Just make sure the hose is not coming out. Inspect it. Go ahead. A slight gap in there. It's fine to leave a little bit of the gap, not too wide of the gap. So there you go. And that's how you successfully put an AN fitting on a braided line without using a vice grip. Like I was telling you, these will scratch up the fitting, as you can see. They have anodized ones that are adjustable, so that way you won't mess up your fitting. So yep, and you will repeat the same process for the other side. So here we go, both sides are done for the center feed, and this will go, one side will go to the center feed of the fuel rail, and the other side will go to the fuel pressure regulator. So let's move on and continue. Alright, so we already went and knocked this one out. So now we're gonna go ahead and do the, let's go ahead and do the return. Okay, so for this one, I am going to advise you, I do not have these hose clamps. As you can see, I will post a picture in the screen so that way you guys can see it, and a link as well for you guys to go buy it. But essentially, they have different style. I went ahead and opted for this one. It's just a hose clamp. Essentially what it does is you put the AN braided line inside. It has one of those hose clamps, like one of these inside of it, and essentially all it does is just clamps onto the heart line, and it creates a good seal in there for no leaks. If you do get leaks, just make sure you retighten it. When I first installed it, it was tight. It was a cold night that night in the garage. When I went the next day to go turn the car on, I fired it up and it might have like loosened itself up, and it was started leaking. So I just went ahead and retightened it up again, inspected it, turned the car on, primed the car on, and turned it on, and no more leaks. But these are pretty easy and simple to install. Unfortunately, I do not have one of those, so I can't show you how to install it, but it's really easy. Essentially, it's the same thing as the AN. You just slide it, and then when you put it into the hard line like this, you slide it in. Just tighten the clamp like the same thing, the same way you will be doing this, and there you go. So let's go ahead and do the return. So for the return, you're gonna need that clamp that I was telling you about, and then you're going to be using a 45. Sorry, so you're gonna be using a 45. All right, let's get to it. All right, so I take the hose, 45. Essentially, it's the same thing as you saw in the other one. And take it off. All right, so it's pretty much the same thing. So I'm just gonna go ahead and show you guys how to do it. Always make sure it's seated properly. And there you go. You got the 45 on. On this side, I'm going to be putting it up here. You're going to be using one of those hose clamps on this side. And this side would go to the hard line return. This side would go to your fuel pressure regulator return side. So this one's done. Let's go ahead and move on. All right, last but not least is going to be the return. So for the return, it's the trickiest one, I'm not gonna lie. So for the return, you're gonna have, let me go ahead and just right here. So you're gonna have this side right here. So from this side, it's going to be a 90-degree bent going all the way down to the inlet filter and to another 90-degree. So essentially, the 90 degrees are going to be facing opposite sides of each other. So one side to this, almost like an S shape, and then it's going to go on to the micron inlet filter. If you want, and that's what I did, I gave it a little bit slack just because I was not sure how it's going to fit, you know. But you can leave slack so that way, you know, in the future, what type of inlet filter you run. It can fit and have proper fitment in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and show you how to make this one as well. So for this, I have a straight here running all the way to the feed line, and I did the same thing and I put a hose clamp. So let's go ahead and show you how to do that one. Alrighty, last but not least, you're gonna do the feed. So here's where the 45 is gonna go to. And take both of our 45s, and the kit brings everything from max speeding rods. And it brings all the fittings as well that you're going to need. All right, let's get to it. Boom, one side done. Let's get the other side completed. And there you go, an S shape with essentially 290 degrees, an S shape. So fill pressure regulator, this would go all the way down to the micron filter. So there you go. Now let's go ahead and do the last one. For the last one, all you're essentially going to need is a straight and a hose clamp. Here's your straight, last piece. And as you've seen in the other ones, it's the same concept pretty much. This one, for some reason, it feels a lot harder to put, maybe because of the size of the tube and it's smaller. I do not know, but this one's the one that's proven to be a little bit hard, to be honest. There you go. You just have to double check. It seems I'm not quite there yet. Let me just keep going. There you go. Seated. All right. Boom! That's why you use anodized AN wrenches to prevent that. But it's fine. So let's go ahead and show the finished product. When you're all done, this is pretty much how it's going to look like. And there you go. This is pretty much cheapest way to make your own AN fittings. I'm going to put pretty much the cost of how much this will normally cost you to get done. And it's very, very cheap. All right, and this is how it's essentially going to look in your car. Even though I did have it already on my car and I showed you guys how to make it, it's pretty much the same thing. So it's going to run from the center feed of the fuel rail onto a straight all the way. Make sure to keep slack to another straight to the fuel pressure regulator. And then let's move on to the feed. So from the feed, you're going to have a 90-degree bend here, all the way down to another 90-degree bend, forming an S shape, to a inlet microfilter, to a straight running all the way back to a hose clamp and onto the feed. And then for the return, you're going to have a 45 AN angle fitting, and then it's going to go all the way to a hose clamp onto the return. And there you go. There you have it. That's essentially how you make your own budget, cheap way to make your fuel lines. You do not have to pay a crazy amount to get them. I know the fuel pressure regulator will cost you roughly about 160, 180, depending on what fuel rail you have. I went ahead with a K-Tune one, and I did pay about 180 or so. You have your own different options. You know, you can go ahead and get a hybrid racing one, or a lot cheaper options that I've seen, essentially doing the same job. And some of them even offer the option to mount your fuel pressure regulator right on the fuel rail itself. So this could be as budget and as cheap as you want to make it. And I am going to total it out and give you the amount that you will be spending to make all of this. I've seen kits go for as much as $500, including the fuel rail and the pressure regulator. With this, I essentially pay way less than what I would have paid if I would have bought the whole kit together. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that on the screen as well to show you guys. I once again want to give a shout out to Max Speeding Rods. So if you guys found this video interesting, go ahead and like it, comment it, and I'm going to link also as well for you guys to go ahead and get your own lines to make these yourself with the instructions and how I set it for you guys. Remember, this is custom, so you make it to your liking, but I went ahead and gave you a rough idea on what to do, how to measure, and how to Max Speeding Rod. Go ahead and check them out for any other aftermarket or performance parts that you might need, and go ahead and pick yourself up one of their options on their fuel lines. Thank you for watching.